Okay. All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha Kodash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And as you can see in the title, everything is about to turn up. And what I want to start here with this notification that I was reading earlier um, concerning South Korea, and which they're just one of many that are starting to have this feeling here. But as it says here, I'll read it real quick. Breaking: South Korean president warns against over reliance on U.S. for security as key military equipment is withdrawn to fight Iran. And let me just read a little bit more. It says here, South Korean President Lee Jae-myung has warned against over-reliance on the United States to support the country's security after the U.S. Army was confirmed to have withdrawn the MIM-104 Patriot missile systems and a range of unspecified other weaponry for use in the country's military campaign against Iran. So just wanted to start off with this, right, as it continues to stare on the spirit of prophecy as we know, right? And we've been prophesying concerning these things, namely what I'm thinking about here is Revelation 17, which even though it mentions the beast hating the whore, you can start to see that by the actions, okay, when it comes to events that involve geopolitics, right? It involves multi nations or multiple nations, and you start to see how Babylon behaves herself on that world scale. You can now start to understand, just how easily and quickly that ill sentiment starts to grow, which it's been there, but it starts to really fester and grow at a rapid pace when when uh, uh, um, when these kind of events happen, right? Like this war, this provocation that they went and triggered, and now the world is looking, all right, at the botched operation, you could say, that's going on right on the world scale. But what they're also seeing is interesting, like how Iran learned not to trust alliances, or not really alliances, but not to trust the words of the West as they try to form, peace deals and so on. And each time they were, backstabbed, you could say, right? So they've learned, and now the world is learning that. Damn. So really, when push comes to shove, the U.S. does not have your best interest in mind, right? They'll abandon you just as quickly, and throw away all those, false sense of security that they fed you when it comes down to it. So looking at how this thing goes, in terms of the tensions with Iran, let's say hypothetically speaking, things do calm down a bit, right? To whatever degree that may look like, because remember that whether it's like a roller coaster, right? Whether it calms or it picks up, it's still all according to the timeline of the Heavenly Father, right? But in that case, these countries are now like, this has been an eye opener for countries to like see that, hey, we also need to be prepared to defend ourselves. We can't rely on the US. It was easy to think that you could when there was no threats of a world war, right? And you thought, well, I already have their weapons here and their bases are in my country and so on, and so I'm going to be good. But now they're realizing, no, 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 no. They that's not, if this escalates and breaks out into something, more widespread, and this country or that country gets involved, you're cooked because they're not going to be there for you. So think about it, right? Imagine you're on the side of Babylon, and that makes you a target in the eyes of Babylon's adversaries, and Babylon is not willing to defend you. What are you really gaining from being on that side? And I think that's the part that a lot of these nations are starting to realize, But in any case, there have been a lot of talks, right, about a lot of things that have been going on, and we're now seeing, or at least the world, I should say, because we've been seeing it, but the world is now seeing the degree of what, even just the slightest taste of prophecy looks like, right, and the unpredictability of it in the minds of people. See, pursuant to Isaiah, the 33rd chapter and the 6th verse, we have stability of mind because what we understand is not based on the things that are transpiring in the world, but based on what's written. And we've understood that for a long time. So we know that the words of the Lord are true and they're gonna come to pass as they've been written. And so we're not worried and we're not stressed because we already have a stable source of truth, but the world doesn't. To them, it's unpredictable, right? It's volatile, and that's a fearful thing for them. But going back to the title, everything is about to turn up, both on the right hand and on the left hand side, because now the narrative has been pushed to, you have sleeper cells, and they've said that, and we said that when the whole border was open, right, during the Biden administration. We said that common sense, right? Common sense would tell you that if a nation's president has their best interest in mind, what you are doing is blatantly contrary to that. It doesn't make sense. And you can't, it's not about, oh, they're ignorant to it. They're not ignorant to it. That was something that was done deliberately. Okay. And the thing about that was, okay, they brought in Trump and he ran on the notion that I'm gonna come and clean up the streets, I'm gonna close the borders, I'm gonna fix this mess. But the people are like, the scenario is already set. Okay. People are already in here. So now fast forward to 2026, they can tell you, yeah, there's sleeper cells in the country. There are different areas like, and I was watching a video yesterday, and the individual, who was going through the different news clips and the reports, they showed a map of what I believe the Department of Homeland Security had released as a potential areas where you have sleeper cells. And you have certain areas, I think they mentioned, wow, I can't even remember, but New York was definitely on the list. I think Washington was on the list. When it came to New York, you know what they said? He said that they didn't give specific names of cities or locations in New York. They said there was such a high concentration of sleeper cells in New York that they just said the whole entire state, the whole entire state is at risk. So there's no point in trying to specify one city over another. Okay. So they've already planted that out there, and it's something that they do often, where they condition the minds of the masses to be ready for something like this. So it's not out of nowhere. They start throwing it out there, so it's your mind is like, oh, okay, this is a possibility. Oh, okay, this, and they do that. That's how they start to set up the narrative, and then before you know it, something goes down, and it's like, oh well, your minds were already prepared for it. So when something happens, people immediately think, oh, what was it that we were being told? Oh, yeah, I do remember a couple of weeks ago they were saying that Iran had activated sleeper cells, and so it's no surprise that this just happened. That's a part of the point of conditioning. So they don't have to come and do all that work of explaining to you what just happened. They will let you, the public, come to your own conclusions, guided by the narrative and propaganda they pushed beforehand. Okay, that's what they do. So as these things start to unfold, it's going to create what? Fear, a lot of fear. Right now, recently, you had Iran basically came out and said, roughly paraphrasing, that Trump should be careful that he doesn't get eliminated. And when you hear that from a country who it's known that they don't have missile capability of reaching the United States, but as has been the talk lately, they do have, they're more than capable of reaching through sleeper cells, right? Through proxies. So, when you hear something like that, well, what do you think of? Oh, interesting. How would they be able to dish out such a threat? You see? So we're at the point where, one, pretty much one or two, or really, if you take it back to one, it's just one catalyst away from everything that your sense of normalcy changing. And I'm going to get this precept real quick here in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 33, verse 33, again to the point. It says here, and when this cometh to pass, lo, it will come. So the things that we have been prophesying about, we know that it's going to come. But when it does come to pass, for some people, it's not, some that are spiritual, the Lord has opened up their eyes. They can see it right before it happens, and they'll take heed. But you have some that it isn't going to be until after these events start unfolding, right? Then shall they know that a prophet has been among them. Because now they're going to start to see the things that were prophesied to them happening. And that's when their eyes are going to be, oh, wow, this is what such and such was saying. This is what such and such was saying. But honestly speaking, do you want to be in a time when all hell is breaking loose to then come to the realization that, oh, maybe I should have taken heed to what was being said, or I now see what you were saying? That's great. Everybody does. And so what? So what if, they do some major, they do some major event, right? And then you come to the realization, oh, I see what you mean now. Okay, now I understand. That's great. But what are you going to do now? Yeah, now you understand, but your circumstance doesn't change just because now you understand. No. How are you going to be delivered? How are you going to make it out of it? You now know why it happened. You now know what's going on, but knowing what's going on is not enough. Why do people seek answers concerning, like, something goes down and they want to know what's going on? Because from that point, they can now know what they should do, or they can plan accordingly. You're not going to have the time to do that when all hell is breaking loose. People's minds, they lose rationality in terms of how to make decisions when there's a lot going on, especially when it's coupled with fear and panic. And so most people end up just following the crowd. They just, wherever the crowd is going. You ever seen those videos where you have a group of people just running full speed, past in some street somewhere, and they're looking back and they're making it's a prank, but they're making it seem like there's something going on behind. And immediately the people that are around who don't know it's a prank, what do? They start running too. They don't even ask questions. They just see, oh, what? Everybody's running. I'm going to run too. Because if everybody's running, then they must be running from something. And then eventually, they stop. And then these people stop. The people who didn't know what was going on. And they're like, well, why are you running? Oh, we just running. So why did you start running? Because you saw a lot of people start running. So in that moment, they were like, yo, I don't know what's going on. They got spooked. And so they said, I'm just going to do what everybody else is doing. Because clearly, if everybody else is doing it, then there must be something right about it. That's that sort of mentality that has been put into the minds of people today. But you got to be careful with that, right? Because following a multitude, just because it's a multitude, does not mean they know what's going on. And so people are going to start to seek answers, right? They're going to start. Don't be surprised. And this has already been going on for some time now. But you're going to have more and more people, right? Whether it's so-called Christians, scholars, or pastors, starting to go into these same books that they discounted, okay, and the same teachings that we have been teaching that they discounted. They're going to start going back to those same areas. Today, I saw a video of an individual. He didn't strike me as somebody that was, in the Israelite community, so to speak. Somebody was more so on the Christian side of things, reading 2nd Ezra 15, going into the horrible vision from the east. And he didn't even break it down. He was just reading it. But it's just interesting to see, because it's like a lot of these precepts, especially when it comes to prophecy, you're going to start to see a lot more people singing that tune, or trying to, I should say, right? Now they mentioning Gog and Magog and And you go back years ago, you weren't really hearing people going into that, but now they are, because now that's where the direction of the world is going in. So people want answers. They want to know. Now you're going to have a lot of people, which they already are, and they're going to their congregation, they're going to their pastors, and they're asking, well, where is this in the Bible, right? What's going on here? You know, I'm hearing this, that, and the third, and I'm hearing that this over here. What's up? And that leads me here to the book of Ezekiel chapter 7, verse 26, because that's what it's going to take. It's going to take panic. It's going to take chaos. It's going to take fear to drive people to open up their eyes to say, look, I'm seeking answers now. But the Lord has set it up in a way where when he starts to turn things up, he's going to withdraw those answers. Second Ezra, the 5th chapter, goes into that. All right, wisdom shall hide itself, you know, and withdraw itself into the secret chambers. And that's when it's going to be sought of many and not be found. Now imagine being in a situation where you feel like your life is on the line and the information you need as frequent and as open as it was before, to where you have people that complain that there's too much of the truth out here. And so just as easily accessible as it is now, the Lord is going to flip the switch, and it's going to be in reverse. When you need it, you ain't going to find it. So this is Ezekiel 7 and 26. It says, mischief shall come upon mischief, and rumor shall be upon rumor. And that's the news. Like today, you see a lot of that via social media, alternative, sources of information, even your mainstream media, right? There's just news after news after news. Some are true, some are just propaganda, and some are a mix of both. But what they all have in common is it's not good news. All right, it's not something that sounds, pleasant to people. So you have some people that don't even want to hear the news at all. They're just like, I don't watch news. I don't want to hear it. And that really puts you at a disadvantage. Okay, it's like being trained on what to do if there's a fire, and you're saying, no, I don't want to take that course, and I don't want to hear that because I don't want to think about the possibility of there being a fire. Newsflash, buddy. If there is a fire, it's not about your thoughts. Your thoughts are not what's going to prevent a fire from happening. So you are disarming yourself of information when you say, I'm not going to look at the news because it's scary. So if you don't know what to do when a fire happens, what do you do when a fire happens? You don't know, because you told yourself, I didn't want to think about that possibility. So I think I'm going to just stay in this bubble. Bubbles pop. And when it pops, you're cooked. Okay, your bubble of ignorance will not protect you from reality. That's the harsh truth of reality. That's how it works. Okay, this is real life. This isn't a movie. This isn't your fantasy land. This isn't any of that. This is real life. And your feelings don't really mean anything when it comes to real life, right? So it says here, then shall they seek a vision of the prophet. See that? The same prophets that you can go and type in on YouTube, the GMS South Carolina SC. I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, that's the channel of the Elder Manasseh Zakba. You go and you type that in, and just go and look at the videos that are done on there, right? And you'll see a plethora of Israelites and even some non-Israelites that are speaking constantly against the Hebrew Israelites, right? They're speaking against the prophets. They're speaking against the scriptures. They got all kinds of rhetoric, all kinds of madness that they got spewing on over there, right? These same people are going to turn around and seek the same very people that they've been condemning and speaking ill against. And they speak ill against us because we speak the truth of the Lord. But they don't like that. They don't like that truth. So they speak ill against us. Guess who they're going to go to? Because you don't like us because of what we're telling you. We're telling you the harsh reality, right? And we're telling you that it's going to happen, and you don't like us because of that. When it actually does happen, what are you going to do? You're going to say, I don't like reality because it's happening. Okay, it doesn't matter. It's still happening. They have the option now to say, I'm not going to listen to you because I don't like what you're saying. But when what we're saying becomes the life you're living, you don't have the option to cut that out. You're forced to live in that reality. And so what are they going to do? They're going to say, well, these people knew it was coming beforehand. They must know something more. Let me see if I can go and find them. They're going to go and seek a vision from the prophet. They're going to seek answers. But what does it say here? But the law shall perish from the priest and counsel from the ancients. And I'm going to read this part in the NLT. this verse here, right? It says, calamity will follow calamity, rumor will follow rumor. They will look in vain for a vision from the prophets. You're gonna end up like a Saul when he was seeking, because it said the Lord didn't answer him by dreams, nor by visions, nor by Urim or Thummim or anything of those sorts, to where he had to go and seek a witch. But it ain't gonna be like that in this time. You're not gonna have any form of comfort in your mind, at least as you would expect. So as it says, they will look in vain for a vision from the prophets. They will receive no teaching from the priests and no counsel from the leaders, because even the leaders in this time are going to be looking for answers themselves. And that's going to put a lot of people in a very stressful scenario. And guess what? On the right hand side, the Lord said he's going to take care of his elect. Right? He's gonna provide that divine intervention. Going back to Isaiah 59 and 19. Okay, Isaiah the 40th chapter. He's gonna provide that protection. Isaiah the 65th chapter. He said his servants are gonna eat, right? While the rest of the world is suffering. People are gonna want to be a part of that. But you didn't want to suffer with the servants of the Lord when it was time for persecution, when it was time for suffering, when it was time for labor. But you wanna be fed with the servants of the Lord when it comes time for deliverance. It doesn't work that way. Okay, it absolutely does not work that way. The scriptures say, if we suffer with the Lord, then we shall be glorified with him. But if you didn't suffer with the Lord, you're going to be rejected of the Lord. And it's as simple as that. So as things turn up on the left-hand side and you have a time like never before, as a matter of fact, since I mentioned it, let me actually go there real quick in the book of Matthew, the 24th chapter. We'll go specifically to 21. Right, you're gonna have people experiencing times they've never experienced before, literal wartime, right, and all the side effects that comes with. Okay, pestilences, and what happens is society won't function as it usually does, right, when things are stable. So the things that you need, there's a lot that runs. The world does not run on Dunkin'. Okay, the world the world runs on a chain of supply, right, that keeps everything going. And it isn't until that chain is broken that you start to see how important even the tiniest pieces are. From your, firefighters to your truck drivers, to the garbage cleanup crew, to all of these things, farmers. So when you start to feel the effects of not having them, you're gonna understand very well that this reality is not a one that you can just cruise by and then just watch memes all day and then call it a day. No, Matthew 24 and 21, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. So it's going to be a time like never before. That's what it's saying in a nutshell. And a lot of people are not prepared for that. And it's not going to be carnal preparation. It's not going to be how well you can aim a bullet. You can't shoot away a famine. You can't shoot hunger away. All right. And it's not going to be, how much food you stocked up in a bunker. The Lord controls how these events play out. Okay. Verse 22 is, because you can have a underground bunker and a nuclear bunker and fill it up with all these things, thinking, oh, it's lit. You know what I'm saying? Like the second this goes down, I'm ready. And then sign happens, and here it is. You're upstairs. You're running. You about to go downstairs. You slip. Boom. Fall down the stairs. Break something, or fracture your spine or something, and now you're paralyzed. Or you get some cut and it gets infected, and then boom, now you're cooked. So it's the safety really comes from the Lord. It's not about how prepared you are in the physical. It's about how prepared you are in the spiritual. And the world is going to see that. And when the Lord blesses his men with spiritual power, that's going to be a turn up on the right hand side, to be able to have them, provided for and protected through divine providence in these dangerous times. It says in Isaiah 13 that a man shall be more precious than fine gold, because the Spirit of the Lord is going to be on those men. Okay, on us. When you go into 2nd Ezra 16, it talks about that. Get into the last few verses. Then shall they be known who are my chosen. The Lord will make it very, very apparent. He said it, and the Yahushua said it, in I think it's written, I believe, in the Gospels, that the Lord confirmed their words with signs, so that it would be known, yeah, these are the men of the Lord. You see, so as things once again turn up on the left hand side, they're also going to turn up on the right hand side, and before all is said and done, it's going to be going from the natural carnal world, stepping into the supernatural, right, emerging of the two. And that's when the world goes back to how it was before. Because for this long period of time under Esau's rule, there's been this age of forgetfulness, this darkness. People are not spiritual. Everything has to be tangible. There's no faith in the world. If you don't see it, you don't believe it. It's all science, this, science, that, which is really science falsely so called. But now the Lord is going to reset that, bring back the time of miracles, bring back the time of, divine providence. And all those things are coming back. So once again, before all is said and done, the world is about to be hit with shock value after shock value after shock. And the Lord loves shock value. Shock value, when you watch like certain movies or TV shows, it's those scenes that make everybody's jaw drop, right? It's shock value. It's like what you didn't even expect to see that. Main character is on the verge of defeat, and then he just has this insane trigger, and he powers up, and he's like, basically taking over everything. And it's designed in such a way where you didn't expect that. You didn't even see that coming. But it's just like, oh my gosh, like what, how? Oh, that is shock value. And the Lord loves that. He's going to do that. Okay. Verse 22, it says, and except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. So the elect are very precious. All right. The elect are very, very precious to the Lord, and they will be preserved. Whether you have to be a martyr on this side or not, you're getting the same reward, which is deliverance. Okay. So it's going to be a very, beautiful turn of events. I had a couple more here in Jeremiah 19:3. All right. Now, this is something that, the Lord said via Jeremiah concerning this time, when he was about to bring judgment upon Judah. But, the Lord is going to do the same thing now in our time, right? And the effect of what is said here is going to be done again now, but on a higher level. So let's read it, right? It says, and say, yeah, it says, and say, hear ye the word of the Lord Yahweh, O kings of Judah and inhabitants of Jerusalem, which now this would apply to all Israel, right? That hear this word, not just the southern kingdom. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, behold, I will bring evil upon this place. And we know the Lord is going to bring evil now upon this place, upon Babylon, and really upon the world. It's prophesied all throughout the scriptures. But the key part here, it says, basically, I'm going to bring this evil, and this is going to be a kind of evil that which whosoever heareth, his ears shall tingle. Imagine that. Like evil, so evil. He can't even find another word for it. This is evil, so devastating, so scary, so wild that hearing it is going to make your ear tingle. Let's actually go into that word tingle and see what that says over there. Shall make his ears tingle. That's that evil that gives you goosebumps, right? To quiver of fear. Yeah, that's, oh, look at that. It says here, rattle together as the ears in reddening with shame, or the teeth in chattering with fear. Like they'll show you in those cartoons because they over exaggerate it. Oh, Slakia, this is it, what I was reading here. They'll over exaggerate it where a character is afraid, and then those old cartoons, you'll see that their teeth is like continuously clashing on top of each other, like they just continuously chattering it, right, because of that fear. They're sweating, they're biting their nails and all that. Let's pull this back up again. That's an example of that. And the Lord said he's going to bring evil so devastating that hearing it alone is going to have that effect on you. So just imagine, like when the scriptures talk about all hell breaking loose scenario, all right, or SHTF scenario, that is not something that you can just walk away from and be the same afterwards. No, it's not. And all the things you're seeing is going to lead up to it. Like I said, regardless of how this current event that's going on plays out with Iran and the US and the economy and all of that, whether it goes up, whether it goes down, whether it goes up and it goes down, whether it just comes to a slow halt and then it picks back up. I mean, that's been the trend the past months and years. But if you notice, each time, like in Habakkuk, the second chapter, each time it tarries, because you'll see like during the 12-day war with Iran, things are going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And this wasn't proxies. This was like actually Israel and Iran going back and forth, right? And then the U.S. dropped those bombs over there, and then it tarried. And then the next time it picked up, as you can see, it's more intense. So each time these prophecies, it's like it's like trying to break down, a wall, right? When during ancient warfare, you have which even today they use it. You have the battering ram, and you have the wall or the door, and they're trying to break through it. So they'll keep hitting the door with that battering ram, right? To the first time they'll hit the door, boom, that it'll shake, but it looks like nothing is really happening. Then they go in and they swing again, boom, and each time the door is getting weaker and weaker, and then you start to see the fractures, then you start to see the cracks, and then you start to see the boom. Now the door has been broken through. And that's what you're seeing with prophecy, right? It tarries, but the next time it swings, it hits harder than before. And then the next time it swings, it's an even greater escalation. Boom. And then eventually, once you break through that door, there's no more tarrying. Now it's just a flood of whatever was on the other side trying to break through that door, which is going to be all these things that have been written to come to pass. Okay, and then that's going to lead to that effect here that we read of in Amos 5 and 19, right? I actually start at 18. It says, "Woe unto you that desire the day of the Lord. To what end is it for you? The day of the Lord, is darkness and not light, as if a man did flee from a lion." This is that influx, right? Where you run away, like a lion, a bear, a serpent. These are all danger, and you try to escape from one scenario just to be met with another, and you try to escape from that just to be met with another. And what it's saying is it's going to be, the judgment of the Lord is going to be inescapable. Okay, it's the in Ezekiel it says an evil has come, and only evil has come. So if you are destined for destruction, this is going to be a melting pot of judgment. Every corner you turn, there's judgment waiting for you. It's just a matter of which judgment is going to get you first. Right? It says, as if a man did flee from a lion and a bear met him. And you start to think, well, a lion and a bear, shit, which maybe I should go back to the lion. It says here, or went into the house and leaned his hand on the wall, and a serpent bit him. You see? So that's basically the scenario, the worst case scenario that is going to play out, where on every front you try to think of peace, but there's no peace. There's no food, there's no electricity, there's no shelter, there's no nothing, there's no protection. You're just bare. You bear out here having to face the judgments and the elements that the Lord is going to bring as a form of destruction. Okay, and at that point, people are going to realize, it's a little late in the game now for apologies. All right, but they're going to try it anyway. So I'm going to finish off on this. This is Psalms chapter 119, verse 126. "It is time for thee, Yahweh, to work, for they have made void thy law," and the Lord is working, right? We're seeing the working of the Lord in real time. And and the beautiful thing about that is we understand what the Lord is doing. Okay, we understand what he is doing. So you can see the Isaiah 33 and 6. You can experience that now, but it's only going to get more and more potent. That stability that comes with the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding given from the Lord. Right, that potency of stability, it's going to increase more and more and more as things get more and more chaotic. Right? Look, if you're in a stable house, right? You're in a stable house, but nothing, the earth is not moving, nothing is happening. It's you still know you're in a stable house, but you don't really see the effects of the stability as much. It isn't until everything else around you starts breaking down and starts falling apart and starts being shaken up, and you're not being shaken up. Your house is sure. That's when you start to feel the potency of that stability. Like, damn, by it's through comparison. And really that's how majority of things in this world are valued, right? It's through comparison. All right. How do you know when something is good versus another thing? It has to be compared. That's how a lot of value is estimated. Something is hot, but when it's compared with something that's cold, then it's really hot, right? You see a car. Look, if the only car that existed was a 1980s Honda something, hey, nobody would be talking smack about it. Then release a 2020 version of it, and now you can say, oh no, that's an old car. Well, why is it old? Because you're comparing it to the new. So long story short, stability is really realized and felt during a period of instability. And now we're entering into the period of the most turbulent, unstable times that the Lord is setting up. And it only takes one push. When the Lord says, okay, it's time to go, one push. And that's that Habakkuk 2:3, that when it comes, it will not tarry. It's just going to be one after the other, after the other, after the other. And if you don't have the stability from the Lord, you're going to be caught in that debris of judgment. And that's just what it comes down to. So, like I said, I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. Everything is about to turn up, right? Both on the left hand and on the right hand. And so we got to be prepared, to witness and to experience the workings of Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai. So, Lord willing, that was edifying to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'asham Yahweh Shai, Ba'asham Recha Kodesh. And until next time, Shalom.